The first night in my new house, I found a handwritten list of rules taped to the basement door. I'd bought the place cheap, a fixer-upper in a quiet Ohio suburb called Willow Creek, where the streets were lined with sagging oaks and the neighbors kept to themselves. The house was old, a two-story colonial with peeling paint and creaky floors, but it was mine, my fresh start after a messy divorce. I was unpacking boxes in the dim kitchen light when I noticed the paper, yellowed and curling at the edges, secured with a single strip of tape. The handwriting was sharp, almost frantic, listing 10 rules in black ink. I read the first one, and my stomach twisted: never open the basement door after midnight. I laughed it off at first. Probably some prank from the previous owners, I thought, or maybe a quirky welcome from a neighbor with too much time. I'd bought the house at auction, sight unseen except for grainy photos online, so I didn't know much about its history. The realtor, a nervous guy named Ed, had rushed through the paperwork, muttering about a motivated seller and avoiding my questions about the house's past. I didn't care then, I just wanted a place to call my own. But standing there, staring at that list, the silence of the house felt heavier, like it was holding its breath. My name's Rachel Harper, and I'm not the type to scare easy. I'd survived a decade in a bad marriage, a courtroom battle, and moving across the country with nothing but a car full of boxes and a dwindling bank account. A creepy note wasn't going to rattle me. Still, I read the rules, each one stranger than the last. 1. Never open the basement door after midnight. 2. If you hear footsteps on the stairs, don't look. Keep your eyes on the floor. 3. The mirror in the upstairs hallway must stay covered at all times. 4. If the lights flicker 3 times, leave the room immediately. 5. Don't answer the phone if it rings at 3:33 a.m. 6. Keep all windows locked, even in summer. 7. If you see a shadow in the corner of your eye, don't turn to look. 8. Never leave food out overnight. 9. If you hear whispering from the vents, plug your ears and hum loudly. 10. If you find a key in the house, burn it. I tore the list down, crumpled it, and tossed it in the trash. Superstition wasn't my thing, and I had enough to deal with: leaky pipes, chipped paint, and a mortgage that felt like a noose. But as I climbed the stairs to bed, the house groaned around me, the wood settling in a way that sounded too much like footsteps. I locked my bedroom door that night, something I hadn't done since I was a kid. The first week was uneventful, just the usual chaos of moving in. I painted walls, scrubbed floors, and ignored the faint scratches I found on the basement door, like something had clawed at it from the inside. The neighbors were distant but polite, offering tight smiles when I waved. The only one who talked was Mrs. Gleason, an old woman across the street with watery eyes and a habit of clutching her cross necklace. "You're in the old Miller house," she said one morning, her voice low. "Be careful." I asked what she meant, but she just shook her head and shuffled back inside. By the second week, things started to feel off. I'd wake up at odd hours, heart pounding, certain I'd heard something: a creak, a whisper, a faint tap on the window. I'd check the locks, peer into the dark, but find nothing. The house was old, I told myself. Old houses make noises. But then the lights started flickering. Not once or twice, but 3 times in a row, just like the list warned. The first time it happened, I was in the living room, sorting through boxes. The bulb overhead stuttered, once, twice, 3 times, and I froze, the rule flashing in my mind. I grabbed my phone and left the room, feeling stupid but too uneasy to stay. In the hallway, the air felt colder, and I swore I saw a shadow dart across the wall, too quick to be real. I dug the crumpled list out of the trash that night. I didn't believe in ghosts or curses, but I smoothed the paper out and taped it to the fridge, telling myself it was just for reference. I started following the rules, not because I believed them but because the house was getting under my skin. I locked the windows, even when the August heat turned the place into an oven. I stopped answering my phone after midnight, letting it buzz unanswered on the counter. I found an old sheet and draped it over the hallway mirror, avoiding my own reflection as I passed. One night, I woke to the sound of footsteps on the stairs. Slow, deliberate, like someone was pacing just outside my bedroom door. I lay still, eyes fixed on the ceiling, the second rule burning in my mind: don't look. Keep your eyes on the floor. My heart hammered, but I didn't move, didn't breathe, until the sound faded. In the morning, I checked the stairs. The wood was worn but clean, no footprints, no sign anyone had been there. I told myself it was a dream, but I started sleeping with a kitchen knife under my pillow. The whispering started a week later. I was in the kitchen, washing dishes, when a low murmur came from the vent above the sink. It wasn't words, not exactly, just a soft, rhythmic hum, like voices overlapping in a language I couldn't understand. I froze, suds dripping from my hands, the ninth rule screaming in my head. I plugged my ears and hummed, some stupid pop song from the radio, until my throat ached. When I stopped, the house was silent again, but the air felt wrong, like someone had been watching me. I started researching the house. The local library had a dusty archive of town records, and I spent hours flipping through yellowed newspapers. The Miller house, as it was called, had a history. In the 70s, a family disappeared, parents and 2 kids, gone without a trace. In the 90s, a single mom moved in and was found dead in the basement, ruled a suicide but with no note. The articles were vague, the details sparse, but one thing stuck out: every owner mentioned strange noises, shadows, rules. I found a blog post from 2005, written by a guy who'd lived here briefly. He mentioned a list, just like mine, and warned against breaking the rules. His last post ended mid-sentence, like he'd been interrupted. I wanted to leave, but I'd sunk every penny into this place. I had nowhere else to go. So I doubled down on the rules, following them like a religion. I stopped cooking after dark, afraid to leave food out. I avoided the vents, blasting music to drown out any whispers. I checked the locks obsessively, sometimes 3 times a night. But the house didn't care. It was like it knew I was trying to outsmart it. One night, I found a key. It was small, brass, tucked under a loose floorboard in the hallway. It didn't fit any lock in the house, not the front door, not the windows, not even the attic. The 10th rule flashed in my mind: if you find a key in the house, burn it. I stood over the kitchen sink, lighter in hand, but I couldn't do it. What if it was important? What if it unlocked something I needed to know? I slipped it into my pocket instead, telling myself I'd figure it out later. That was a mistake. The next night, the phone rang at 3:33 a.m. I stared at it, vibrating on the nightstand, the screen flashing an unknown number. The 5th rule stopped me from answering, but the ringing didn't stop. It went on for an hour, shrill and relentless, until I yanked the battery out. The silence was worse. I heard it then, footsteps, slow and heavy, coming up the stairs. I grabbed the knife, eyes glued to the floor, humming under my breath like a prayer. The footsteps stopped outside my door, and something scratched at the wood, slow and deliberate. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I checked the door. Deep gouges marked the wood, like claws had raked across it. I packed a bag, ready to leave, but the car wouldn't start. The battery was dead, though I'd driven it fine the day before. I called a tow truck, but no one answered. My phone died an hour later, screen stuck on 3:33 a.m. I was trapped. The basement was the only place I hadn't explored. The first rule had kept me away, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. I waited until noon, when the sun was high, and grabbed a flashlight. The basement door was heavy, the wood swollen, and it groaned as I pushed it open. The stairs descended into darkness, the air cold and damp, smelling of mildew and something sour. My flashlight beam shook as I took the first step, the wood creaking under my weight. The basement was empty except for a single wooden chair in the center, stained and splintered. The walls were concrete, covered in scratches, deep, frantic marks that formed no pattern. In the corner, a pile of ash, like someone had burned something. I stepped closer, my beam catching something glinting in the ash. Another key, identical to the one in my pocket. My hands shook as I reached for it, the 10th rule screaming in my mind. I didn't pick it up. I backed away, heart pounding, and ran upstairs, slamming the door behind me. That night, the house came alive. The lights flickered 3 times, then went out. Footsteps echoed from every direction, not just the stairs but the walls, the ceiling. Whispers poured from the vents, louder now, forming words I couldn't understand but felt in my bones. Shadows moved openly, no longer hiding, slithering across the walls like oil. I clutched the knife, humming, eyes on the floor, but it wasn't enough. The basement door rattled, like something was pounding from the other side. I don't know how I survived that night. I locked myself in the bathroom, the only room without vents, and sat in the tub, knife in hand, humming until my voice gave out. At dawn, the noises stopped. I stumbled out, expecting to find the house torn apart, but it was untouched, the scratches on the door gone, the mirror still covered. The key in my pocket felt heavier, like it was pulling me somewhere. I burned it that morning, in the backyard, watching the flames eat through the brass until it was nothing but a lump of metal. The air felt lighter, the house quieter, but I knew it wasn't over. I called a realtor, not Ed, and put the house up for sale. I didn't care about the money. I just wanted out. I'm staying in a motel now, an hour outside Willow Creek. I don't sleep much. The nightmares are too vivid, footsteps, whispers, that chair in the basement. Last night, I woke at 3:33 a.m., heart racing, certain I'd heard something. I checked my bag, my car, every corner of the room. Under the bed, I found it, a small, brass key, gleaming in the dark.